What is up, everybody? It is your boy, Pigskin Pete. There is trouble in Tiger Town. Can it be fixed? And if so, when? Right after the bumper. So after a very difficult double overtime loss on the road at NC State, that snaps a 36-game win streak against unranked opponents for Clemson. It also drops them all the way to 25 in the polls. That means they dropped from number 3 to start the season a month ago all the way to 25 within just a matter of a few weeks. Clemson drops to 2-2 on the season. Not a whole lot of people saw this coming, and there's a lot of blame to go around. So let's start with the person that everybody is pointing their finger at the moment, including your boy here. Now, let's go through the history a little bit of Tony Elliott so we can better understand why this is not likely to change here in the near future. So, of course, Tony Elliott was a player at Clemson University, so 2000 through 2003 as a wide receiver. Then he went and coached at a couple of other places, including South Carolina State. He makes his way back to Clemson in 2011, is hired by Coach Sweeney as the running backs coach, where he coached from 2011 till 2014. Then he was named the co-offensive coordinator in 2015 along with Jeff Scott and remained the running backs coach. He held that position all the way until 2019 when Jeff Scott left to go to the University of South Florida Bulls to become the head coach there. He was then promoted in 2020 to sole offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. That's where you get the rub. He remains that position today, and he's also starting this season the tight ends coach instead of the running backs coach because Coach Sweeney brought in former player C.J. Spiller to become the running backs coach. Now, I don't think it's necessarily wise or fair to criticize too harshly or too quickly in result of losing football games. I mean, let's face it, guys. This football team has won 12, 13, 14 games a year for 10 years straight. That is extremely rare in this business or in this sport. But when you win that much, including 6 straight playoff appearances and 2 national championships, and you recruit at an extremely high level year in and year out, both the fans of the team and just the fans of the sport in general are going to have high expectations. Now, I believe that most people that really pay attention to this football team and this roster knew that there was going to be some struggles offensively, especially early in the season, breaking in a new quarterback, breaking in a young wide receiver core, breaking in a young running back core, and most importantly, a makeshift and very young and inexperienced offensive line. But there is a huge difference in struggling and falling off a cliff. And what Clemson's offense has done through the first 4 games of 2021 has fallen off a cliff. For all the people out there that are saying, oh, it's because you don't have Deshaun Watson, it's because you don't have Trevor Lawrence, just look at these years and where they rank nationally and the total amount of yardage that they average per game on offense. Now, you can say, yeah, okay, the Deshaun Watson season's pretty good, the Trevor Lawrence season's pretty good, but look there at 2017. 2017, Kelly Bryant was the starting quarterback, and still Clemson averaged 412 yards of offense per game. 2021, 126th in the nation through 4 games, averaging only 232 offensive yards per game. I am still of the belief that too much of the blame is being put on this young man, DJ Uiagalelei. Now, I'm not saying that he's untouchable and should not be benched at any point. As a matter of fact, at this point, I think it might be good for him to sit down for a game or two, regroup, and let this offensive line get a little bit better before they put him back in. They're going to get this kid killed. Now, has DJ played perfectly? No, he hasn't. But I'm of the belief that just about any quarterback that you put back behind this offensive line is going to have struggles right now. Not to mention the issue with the receivers. Well, the receiving core is extremely talented, but it's all the same guy. And no offense to these guys. These guys are all great players in their own right. But what Clemson's receiving core is missing right now is an Amari Rodgers, a Hunter Renfrow. Before that, an Artavis Scott, a guy who's a huge mismatch for linebackers and can stretch the field. Right now, there's no run game, no separation by the wide receivers. Every defense that's lined up against Clemson has done the same thing, a three-man front in dropping either 6 or 8 into coverage. And now we all see the result of that. Now, I, for one, refuse to believe that this issue, them being this bad in such a short time period or time span, is not just a result of youth and inexperience. It's painfully obvious to people like me and everybody else with a pair of eyeballs that this offense has lacked innovation for several years now, and the lack of innovation has been covered up by just world-class talent by Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. Right now, they're playing basically a rotation of 9 or 10 different plays over and over again. You know, back in the early 2010s with Taj Boyd, Clemson's offensive line wasn't great back then either. But the offensive staff and the offensive play calling allowed for success through an innovative scheme and, of course, execution. Of course, Taj Boyd goes on to be the all-time leading passer in the ACC history. It still is. And this leads us to the problem. Where do we go from here? What changes will be made? I don't typically overreact to losses or tough situations, but I think it's time to move on from Tony Elliott. It would be one thing if they were losing and I started seeing a change in philosophy, but we're not seeing that. And based on his comments over the past several weeks, it doesn't appear that he's even going to attempt to try to change it. He's just going to keep doing more of the same thing. Tony Elliott's a great coach and a great man. I just don't think that being an offensive play caller is his gig. Dabo Swinney set a precedent following the 2010 season when he fired offensive coordinator Billy Napier after a season of an abysmal offensive performance. Then he went out and did what? Hired an innovative offensive mind and play caller, Chad Morris. The circle of life circles back around 10 years later. In my humble opinion, it's time to do the same thing with this guy. That's the type of hard decisions that head coaches have to make to keep up with the Joneses. Now, I rarely ever criticize Coach Swinney because I still believe he's one of the best coaches of all time. And I would not trade Coach Swinney even today for any other coach in football. But in my opinion, this is a defining moment for him. You know, unfortunately for Coach Swinney, some of the things that make him great are also his biggest weaknesses. He creates a family atmosphere. I believe he truly loves his coaches and his players, and they love him back. But when you have this sort of family atmosphere and all the love that goes around, it makes it that much harder to cut somebody loose when their time is over. These guys aren't just coworkers, they're best friends. That's why I don't think you're going to see a change at offensive coordinator. And that could end up being a problem down the road. Look, I mean, having a bad season, it happens. I don't think most Clemson fans out there are extremely disappointed about having a bad season. The question is, how long is this going to last? Is a bad season going to turn into 2 bad seasons? Is 2 bad seasons going to turn into 3 bad seasons? That's the worry here. And I did hear something from Coach Swinney yesterday that really did kind of piss me off. Now, I really don't know what his motive or his reasoning was for saying what he said. He was asked by a reporter about the fan criticism of the football team this season. Now, the correct response to that would have been, yes, we should be criticized. We're going to make changes and get this thing fixed, which he did kind of say in a way. But then he had to add in there, well, the bandwagon fans were never all in. That's a bad look when you start attacking the fans. Those quote-unquote bandwagon fans Coach Swinney's talking about are the ones spending $450 for a ticket to a football game to watch Clemson play, making it possible for people like him and Tony Elliott to make millions and millions of dollars. The insinuation there is that the only people that are criticizing the coaching staff are bandwagoners, which quite frankly is silly and insulting. I know fans. 30-year fans, 40-year fans, 50-year fans, including myself, that are being critical of this football team right now. So I think that was a bad look for Coach Swinney to say that, and he probably should apologize for it. The unit that I feel most sorry for is the defense of this football team. The defense is great. I don't want to hear anybody come at me with stats from the NC State game saying, well, the defense didn't look too good in this game, Pete. Well, they were on the field for over 45 minutes. Over 3/4 of the game, the defense was on the field. They cannot stay out there that long and stay healthy and stay productive. They got beat up physically. They got beat up mentally because they have been carrying this team literally on their back for the first 4 weeks. There's not really much else left to say. Unfortunately, I believe this team is going to continue to struggle for the remainder of this season. And then hopefully Coach Sweeney looks at himself in the mirror and looks at his coaching staff and makes the changes that need to be made. We'll see. I don't know. It's your boy, Pigskin Pete, checking out.